Good evening. So I just wanted to share a story about something really, really cool that I had the privilege to experience this last Sabbath meeting. It wasn't really an official meeting, it was just an impromptu sing-song. So leading up to that, I had several nights of, well, actually first, these comments went both ways, so it's all good, but my husband had made a joke about, let's just say my lack of exercise. We walk, but, we're getting older. And so, very lightheartedly, but I decided, he said I had till April, which I thought he meant I had till April to get in shape. And later I found out, no, he meant I had till April because I had taken this year as a sabbatical year after my surgery. So to get started. So anyways, I woke up the next morning. So this was, I think, Thursday morning, full of vigor. And I did so many squats and lunges that I thought I felt great. I thought, wow, I'm actually not in too bad shape until the next morning. So I could barely walk. I had, if I got my muscles warmed up, I could kind of make it go. But if I sat too long, I'd be stuck again. I was reaching down to grab some ingredients for some baking for the kids, and couldn't even make it down. So funny. Anyways, so that had happened, and then I'd had like a couple nights of some, this might be TMI, but my dad told me I lead with my chin. So not exactly, I guess I'm going for some humility here with TMI. I had some rectal, discomfort, and I wasn't sure what it was. Well, by day 3, it started to get crawly. And not just discover, it was crawly. Oh yes, ever since I've been a little girl, haven't had this, but we have had it with our little girls from time to time. But pinworms, yeah, decided to get me some of them. So that was keeping me up. And then I also had one night when I think I'd just eaten some foreign things, and my stomach was very growly one night. I think any kind of like substitute sugars, I'm not sure my body really likes those. I think that's probably part of it. And then something that God has used, and I'm also learning to hone, is bearing burdens in the spiritual realm and a lot of emotional, relational stuff. So for whatever reason, I had entered into a few nights, turned into several nights of not sleeping a whole lot. So I was just really like hobbly-hoy, and I felt almost like out of my tree, and I'm taking stuff to kill parasites, and I had kind of impromptu had a few kids over for a sleepover, and then ended up just extending a little invite for when the parents came down, and we threw together a little impromptu Sabbath meeting. And as we were singing, I've been kind of just looking at different songs for the upcoming Feast of Unleavened Bread, and I just really wanted them to be focused on the death and resurrection of Christ. And so I put some real soulful songs in there, and my son had put some, he had requested some more upbeat. So we started with a couple upbeat, and I didn't have any like transitional songs, so we went from upbeat to really slow. And I was just really just loving the words, and I could hear the hecklers in the living room, get a faster one. And I kept saying things like, well, listen to the words. I think one of them was, you can have all the world, but give me Jesus. And another one, maybe we did, oh, come to the altar. I think we did that one. Come to the altar. Father's arms are open wide. And then we were doing Crown Him with Many Crowns, and I'm pretty sure that's when my event happened. And it's just so interesting because, you know, we talk about like pursuing the presence, or I know, so you know, so many ways to kind of have spiritual experiences. People are after the spiritual experiences, but in a way that doesn't really totally make sense, because it says a wicked and an adulterous generation seek after a sign, but none will be given them but the sign of Jonah. And you know, maybe there's more to the sign of Jonah than I know, but my understanding of it is that it's well, Jonah preached repentance, and they did turn from their sin, and then it says it was 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth. So some people think that's specifically the grave. There's some other ideas, but anyway, I think it also points to resurrection, like repentance and resurrection. So it's just interesting, because if we were really focused on that, you know, if people humbled themselves and prayed and turned from the wicked way, then they'd see revival, right? So you know, it kind of reminds me of that Simon the sorcerer too, because he wanted to, you know, he was making a living off of amazing the people, and he wanted the wow factor, and he was willing to pay for it. So, and then he gets, obviously that's very, very wicked when you're trying to use God's power for any kind of personal gain. And yeah, so I wrote down a few scriptures here. There was one, Matthew 24:4. It says, for false messiahs and false prophets will appear and perform great signs and wonders to deceive, if possible, even the elect. And then there's that one that's like that too, where it says, many will come and say, Lord, Lord, did we not cast out devils and do all these things in your name? He says, depart from me, you workers of lawlessness. And so that shows, again, people with power working powers and not working righteousness. And so I think I've just had, since you can watch my testimony on meeting the power of Christ, which happened in July 2004, and I've had, you know, many encounters with the Spirit over the years, different encounters. And, you know, a lot of time in between, I've learned to just enjoy the presence of God, just knowing God personally and hearing his voice and getting to know his voice better, and listening to the Spirit and getting to know her voice better. And being content with that. Godliness and contentment is great gain. And this just seemed like such an unlikely moment for this to happen, because I'm kind of like addressing hecklers behind me about the tempo of the music and telling them how great the words are. And then next thing you know, when I'm singing the words, all I can tell you is it felt like fire fell on me. And you know, people in the room, I guess, would have to tell you what it looked like from the outside, but I guess it was like, I remember shouting that I'm undignified, and then I think it was just a lot of like, whoa. It just felt like I was an altar. I felt like I was an altar, and the praise in my heart that I was giving to God was being consumed, like it was being accepted. And then the power was so strong, and I remember I was just crying out for mercy, because I just couldn't, I felt like I couldn't contain it. So it was so amazing, and I can't stop thinking about it, actually. Of course, I have a lot of tasks I have to do in a day, but it's so amazing. And I really feel like, because I was in a weak spot, it was extra ripe. And then I was just looking at scriptures about being an altar, and I had a few more scriptures I was just meditating on since then. One was just Romans 12:1, it says, offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. I thought this was interesting too on the road to Emmaus when Christ was with the disciples in Luke 24:32. It says, did not our heart burn within us while he talked with us on the road and while he opened the scriptures to us? Just that it burned within them. I know it's not quite the same, but in Psalms 51:17 it says, the sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart. Those, O God, you will not despise. I actually kept reading that one all the way through verse 19, but I didn't write it down. And it talks about him sharing his goodness with Zion and the bull on the altar. And I really don't read that like a bull on the altar. I really just can't read that like a bull on the altar. There's actually that passage too about Joseph. What was he, a sure ox? His prophecy was that he'd be like a sure ox. And obviously Christ is the two houses brought together in the one new man. So he was from Judah, but he covenanted with the house of Israel, Ephraim, Joseph, and Joseph, yeah. Did I say Joseph was like the sure ox? Yeah, I think, wait. Yeah, Joseph was like the sure ox. Anyway, so I just wanted, yeah, it's just cool how God uses the weak things, you know, to nullify the weak and the foolish, to nullify the wise and the strong. And after, I know I did say to one of my friends that he's definitely pushed my limits. So this is just an encouragement that sometimes I know we can get into like a health and wealth kind of gospel, but our health and wealth is in the heavenly realm. So I also looked up a little person that I was just a cursory look, so I'm gonna go read on him. I don't know what the story's really all about, but his name was Blaise Pascal, and apparently he had a mystical encounter of the fire of God falling on him, and he wrote it on a piece of parchment and he stitched it in his coat. And he said that for him it was where he became totally submissive and his intellect got sacrificed to God. Anyway, so those are just some of my thoughts on that. And I say all that to just say too, this isn't even something I think that we need to go and try to conjure up or anything, because you can't. I think you just pursue God in righteousness, and you make yourself available to be a servant, like an ox, strong and steady in the field.